Oh no. Hey guys, how is everybody doing? And today I'm going to be giving you my thoughts on Resident Evil Extinction, which is the third film of the franchise. Nearly there. Woohoo. Starting off with my positives on Resident Evil Extinction, and I'll get into more of this later on in the video as well, but I do like how this movie is in like this full desert-like setting because in the beginning of this movie they reveal that, oh, that 5 years after the T-virus spread all through Raccoon City, it basically spread throughout the whole world, it got in the water system, it went through deserts or whatever. Basically, all the forest died, all the water is gone from the world, and it turned everything into a desert and into a dry land. Now, again, I'll get into that part later on, but I do like how this movie is in the desert. I do like the setting. I do think the visuals of the setting are absolutely cool. Or not, why did I say it like that? They are absolutely great. I really enjoyed I really enjoyed the visuals of the desert-like setting of this movie. I think it's definitely unique for a Resident Evil movie or any kind of Resident Evil like media. I can't speak. I really enjoyed that. I thought it was different for sure, and it was definitely unique. And again, I'll get into that later. But I really enjoyed this like desert like setting. The Mad Max like feel to it is what I really got from it, and I really love Mad Max Fury Road. I have my issues with the original movies. Sue me if you want, but I am a big fan of Mad Max Fury Road, like a lot of people are. And for someone who's that's one of his favorite movies ever, this movie had a lot of Mad Max feels to it, and I really liked that. And it goes and definitely goes with that desert setting. So yeah, I really like the desert setting and the whole apocalyptic. I can't even speak today. What is going on with me? The apocalyptic. The apocalyptic. That's not a fucking word.
Today, Junior?
What you know what I'm trying to say? Shut up. But I really enjoyed that. But again, I'll get into that later. I know it's not like broken record, but the desert setting is really cool and had a lot of Mad Max feels. Apocalyptic. Apocalyptic. Why the hell can't I speak today? For this franchise, really focusing on the zombies of this franchise because Resident Evil is kind of more known for it being an apocalyptic franchise and it being roamed by zombies, which it's popular because of that, but that's really not what the whole franchise is. But since this franchise is focusing on the zombies and stuff like that, the designs of the zombies in this movie are really cool. It gave me a lot of flashbacks to Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead remake. For some reason, I got a lot of feels from that, and like the Day of the Dead like sci-fi TV show look at the zombies. I got a lot of Day of the Dead like feels from the look of these zombies for some reason, or Land of the Dead. So like kind of in that like middle area of George A. Romero like zombie movies. That's what I kind of got from the look of the zombies, and I really loved what how they made these zombies look because they look really vicious. They look really dried up, which makes sense because this movie takes place in the desert basically. So they really made the zombies look like they're decaying and their skin is dried up. Probably don't use a lot of skincare, but I really loved the way that these zombies look. They looked really vicious and mean. Like these are the best zombies I've looked, and it's far better than when they made the fucking CGI in the first movie, which why would you have one of the zombies mauled up faces CGI? That doesn't make any sense to me. So it was really cool to see the designs of these zombies and make them look practical and made them look vicious. They did an amazing job of making them look like they're decaying and looking like they don't use skincare routine like they should be using. But I really thought the designs of these zombies are probably one of the coolest designs I've seen from a zombie movie. And that says a lot because George A. Romero has some pretty cool zombie designs. Well, I guess I should say Tom Savini. Tom Savini made them look cool. But you know what I mean. And it's just like a little small chunk in this movie, but since I'm a huge Resident Evil fan, and since these movies, well, they don't like to use the source material that much, it was really cool to see them bring in more infected like creatures from the games. Like one of the big ones that's on like all of the promotional posters for this movie is the crows, which the crows they aren't like a huge significant thing in the games by any means, but they do show up I think only in the first game. Maybe they show up more. Maybe they even show up in 5. I could be mistaken, but I really thought it was cool that they brought in the infected crows, which makes sense because like when the whole world is gone, like it's gonna be taken over by crows so they can find food or whatever, and the crows are like feeding off the infected so they become infected so they're becoming vicious and trying to kill people, and that's in the first Resident Evil game. Now, in a way, it also isn't important because basically, if you don't bother the crows, then you're gonna be okay. Like, you don't shoot at them, don't try and mess with them, then they won't come and attack you. But for some fucking reason in Resident Evil Zero, even if you just look at them funny, they'll try to attack you, and that pisses me off. So I thought it was cool that they did bring in the crows and that whole sequence with the crows where it's like this whole war zone and they're like attacking people and killing people. Like, that whole sequence in this movie is probably the best part of this entire movie and one of the biggest highlights out of this whole franchise. So I really like that moment in this movie, and I thought that was cool that they brought in a little small Easter egg from one of the Resident Evil games. And seeing the tyrant was cool. I thought that seeing one of the tyrants finally in a Resident Evil movie was cool, but I'll get into that again later. But just to see more, see them bring in more and different creatures from the Resident Evil games into this was just really cool because they don't like to use the source material all that much. But it was just cool to see them bringing in other creatures with the crows and a small part for the tyrant, which by my memory, I'm pretty sure isn't in the other movies, but I could be mistaken, but I don't know. And these movies seem to be like they focus a lot on the action side of this franchise. Like, it's leaned towards more action than horror. Like, that first one has a lot of horror moments, but it's a lot more actiony, especially the second one with Nemesis and all that, with that being like the final boss. But to me, I really liked how this movie kind of leaned towards more of the horror side. Don't get me wrong, this movie does still have a lot of action in it. It's still a pretty action heavy movie, like with the crow sequence, or when they get to Vegas and there's like a whole hordes of zombies coming after them, whatever. Like, that's a lot of action there. That's a whole action sequence there. So it doesn't deviate itself from the action of this franchise. But I really liked how this movie really went towards horror this time in the franchise, because there's a lot of horror moments in this with like the zombies where they kind of make them like smart like zombies, kind of like Bub from Day of the Dead, but also not really. They try to do like a George A. Romero like reference from Day of the Dead or whatever, but it doesn't really work. But there's like moments like that where the zombies are kind of becoming smart, but they're also like more vicious since they have like, more knowledge of what the fuck they're doing. So that was so with moments like that, like when they're testing them, and then there's like the zombies fuck them up. That's a cool. Like, there's a lot of horror moments there, and like I talked about, the designs of the zombies are a lot more horrific, and they make them look more vicious to where they're like like they look more vicious and more monstrous in this one. And like when I talk about the inclusion of the tyrant with that whole sequence, that was very horror heavy. And then the whole crow sequence, like I talked about earlier, this movie had a lot more horror sequences in it than the other two did, I feel like. And I really liked how it did that, because this franchise is very horror is a horror games, which they do lean towards more action after 4 came out, so it makes sense why it's kind of like an action subgenre, I guess. But I really liked how they finally leaned towards more horror than action in this one. But now, moving on to not my negatives, excuse me, my mixed aspects. I'm jumping to conclusions here, people. Moving on to my mixed aspects. Um, I talked about it earlier when I said I really like the desert like setting of this. I really like how they do that. But what I don't like about it, and why this is in my mixed aspects, this movie decides to go fully apocalyptic, which it makes sense. It's supposed to be a zombie apocalypse franchise, I guess, but that doesn't make any sense. How the fuck would a virus that happened in one city in one state 5 years ago spread through an entire fucking planet within 5 years, and then turn it into a desert where there's no water, no forest, no any signs of life really, and it's fully apocalyptic, and it's a full fucking desert? How in the world would that have all happened in 5 years when it happened in one place, one state, one country? That doesn't make any fucking sense to me, and that has so many holes. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. How the hell would that happen? Also, didn't fucking Umbrella try to nuke Raccoon City at the end of Apocalypse? I don't remember now. I felt like they did. Like, I'm pretty sure they fucking did. And so, like, if you nuke that town and then and it supposedly destroyed the virus and destroyed any signs of life of it, how the hell would it have spread throughout the entire Earth full of 8 billion people? That doesn't make any sense.
That's dumb. You're dumb.
And no way over 5 years all of the water would have just disappeared and just turned into dust. Like, no, I don't think that's how science works. And I'm not very smart when it comes to science. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Yes, the desert setting's cool and all, but you gotta make your fucking movie make sense if you're gonna do that. But now moving on to my negatives, and I feel like this is the most negative I'll probably be on any of them so far. And one of my first negatives is this whole superhero shit that they're doing with Alice. You know, I said it. I've said it multiple times. Alice to me is one of my favorite final girls. I love her. She's one of the reasons why I enjoy this franchise so much. A lot of people don't care for her, but I do. I've always enjoyed her character, but my god, man, I'm starting to see why some people don't like her. Because it has been a while since I've seen these movies, and maybe I didn't see it back when I was a kid, but I'm seeing it now. But this whole powerful Alice shit is so weird and stupid. It doesn't make any sense because there's this whole subplot where she's being controlled by Umbrella, which is kind of cool, which sets up Afterlife where she goes after Umbrella. That's cool part of this movie. But this whole thing where she's able to stop fire with her mind or something because she's apparently Professor X now, and then there's that whole cool crow sequence, like she kills all the crows because she just lifts the fire up in the air and then kills them all, which okay, that doesn't make any sense. And then the final boss fight with the tyrant, she stops his tentacle thingies by using her Professor X powers. Fucking what? That doesn't make any goddamn sense. And then they're cloning her a shit ton in this movie too. What the fuck is going on? They cloned her at least 100 times in this movie. How the fuck are you doing that? Like, I don't even think they care to explain. That didn't make any fucking sense. And I talked about him in my Apocalypse review, and I didn't even know that he showed up in this movie again, which kind of shows you how long it's been since I've seen these movies. The villain with Dr. Isaacs, he's fucking weird, dude. Like, he's obsessed with Alice for some weird reason because he views her as like a weapon of some sort. So he's trying to recreate the perfect Alice, basically. And then when he's bitten and trying to cure himself, he injects himself with the mixture of the T virus and the antivirus, and then he turns into a tyrant. Which, again, I thought it was cool to see the tyrant, but the way they did it is stupid because the tyrant is not a human in the games. In the games, it's a created monster like everything fucking else is in the games, like the lickers, the fucking the what are the hunters? I almost forgot. I almost called them the frog things, which they are frogs, but they're called hunters. Like those are all things made in a lab. Like sure, the hunters are they're just frogs with the T virus in them. But that's different. But that doesn't. The tyrant was never a human. It was a created monster in a lab. Why is a human a tyrant now? That doesn't make any fucking sense. Oh, because I mixed the T virus and the antivirus together. It doesn't make any sense to me. And it's stupid. And just him as a villain in general throughout the whole movie, he's stupid and he's not enjoyable to watch. Like he's supposed to be a huge threat throughout this movie because he's controlling Alice, which he's not intimidating. Literally, this random dude shoots him dead. And then he comes back to life because he injected himself with the virus or whatever. I don't know what's going on anymore. My god, man, we're only 3 movies in and it's already into the weirdness. How much have I missed from this franchise? Maybe I'm starting to see why people didn't like these movies. And if anything, this is a nitpick for me. The other Red Queen with her sister. Sister to the Red Queen. It's a fucking computer, dude. Like, I just felt unnecessary. We don't need another Red Queen. Like, if you're gonna bring the Red Queen back, bring back the original. Why you gotta make a sister? But she's not the Red Queen. She's the White Queen or something because she wears a white gown or something. Like, why is that here? That doesn't need to be here. That's a weird thing that they added in this movie. How the fuck does the Red Queen have a sister? It's a computer. And for me, the biggest issue about this movie that really took away my enjoyment from this movie is this movie's just a filler. Like, this movie is just pure setup and it's just a filler to be there. Like, this movie is literally here just to make money. Sure, all of them are made just to make money. They didn't care about these movies were never critically successful. They were always financially successful, but you can definitely tell this one was just here to make money. They wanted to cash in on Resident Evil because it was the big thing at the time, because Resident Evil 4 and 5 were just coming out. The other two were a success, so they just pushed this out. But every Resident Evil movie has some sort of progress. Like, you get the introduction with one, you see the explosion of Raccoon City and the virus spreading there. You can see all that stuff. Like, I can literally tell you everything that happens in 1 and 2 that helps the story. I couldn't tell you a single thing that happens in this movie. Excuse me. The only thing I can tell you is that, oh, they survive and Carlos is dead, and they set up Alice going to fight Umbrella, and that's about it. Nothing else interesting happens. Like, you can definitely tell it was a setup, and that pisses me off because these movies are fun. Like, they're not great by any means. They're dumb fun for sure. But, like, you gotta at least have some sort of story when you're making these. Like, nothing really goes on in this movie that's interesting. Like, I'll never put this movie on randomly just to enjoy it like I would with some of the other movies of this franchise. Overall, guys, of the first three, this is definitely the weakest one because this is like probably the stupidest one so far. Now I know we got the final chapter, which, ooh, this is gonna be a long day. But yeah, this is one of the weirdest ones because it just doesn't make any sense. So much holes in this movie that just take away my enjoyment. But if you enjoyed the other two, maybe you'll get a kick out of this one. But I wouldn't. You probably won't get much from this one. But if you're a huge fan of this franchise, this movie's for you. But if you don't care for the other two, this one's not going to help you out either. So, what do you guys think about Resident Evil Extinction? Have you seen it? What do you think about it? Do you like this movie? Do you not like this movie? Do you think this is one of the best ones of the franchise? Or do you think this is one of the worst ones of the franchise? Let me know in the comments below, and we shall talk about it. And if you like this video, like it. If you love to subscribe, hit the bell notifications so you will get notified for all my latest videos. And of course, until my next video, see you all next time.